Hello and welcome to Thoughtfully Fit Thursday. I'm Darcy Luoma, and it's so good to be with you today. And I want to introduce my guest, Sarah Fruehling, who is amazing. And Sarah, I thank you for joining us today. And maybe you could just start by introducing yourself and telling us a little about your story and how you got to where you are today.
Thanks, Darcy. It's a joy to be here. I've loved watching Thoughtfully Fit Thursday, and I'm really inspired by your Thoughtfully Fit gym. And I have clients that I'm sending to you, so I'm sure there are listeners who are as excited as we are. Um, I am a small town girl from the Midwest, and so my story as a coach, sometimes I just feel like, how is this even my life? Because I'm having so much fun. My first career actually was I was a mental health therapist. And I didn't know then what I know now, which is it really, my focus is in cognitive behavioral therapy, strength based work, and positive psychology really set me up differently as a professional executive coach than I think a lot of coaches. A lot of people come in with business degrees. I was a unique private practice self-employed therapist. So I was an entrepreneur in my first career as well. And my story is kind of interesting. Do you want to hear it?
I do.
So I would say it was probably about 2015. A friend of mine who's a multimillionaire who I'd gone to college with had contacted me, was going to be back in our little small hometown. His father had passed away, which was sad. But he asked, could we get together for lunch? And we sat together and had this really great conversation, probably had lunch, sat and talked for 2 hours. At the end of it, Darcy, he said to me, oh my God, this is the best conversation I've had in a decade. You should become a professional executive coach because I have half a dozen, maybe a dozen friends who are multimillionaires who crave a logical, reasonable, feminine perspective. They want a confidential sounding board. And what you have is very different. What I learned was everybody has something. As a therapist, you know that. You see all the challenges. And I felt very called, very proud of the work I was doing, where I was healing kind of one person, one family, one couple at a time. Now I feel like the playing field is just exponentially bigger because I'm getting to work with founders, owners of sometimes huge global corporations and entrepreneurs who own their own companies. And I get to amplify their voices and in that way live out my core value, my favorite kind of ROI, which is creating positive ripples of impact.
Hmm.
So my clients are doing that and I get to help them do that even more powerfully. So he was brilliant because as soon as I looked into it, you know how that happens when you're aligned with your highest calling and everything just falls into place?
Yes. If you're paying attention and you're right and you can see it, oh, how powerful.
Yeah. So it was amazing. And I jumped in, I created a great business plan. Well, part time, I'll continue my therapy practice, and part time, I'll be a coach. And the truth was, it was so much fun to coach. And I kind of, now I believe, as a therapist, that was my zone of excellence. And as a coach, I stepped into my zone of genius. That it was very easy. As much as I loved my first career, there was no stopping this fun and the joy of what I was moving into.
So I love this story of how you got and transitioned from the psychotherapy into coaching. How would you bottom line your zone of genius? I find that the most successful people that I've worked with are really deliberate about spending as much time as possible on the things that they're best at. And really are being able to identify their zone of genius and commit to spending time there. What's your zone of genius?
So definitely my zone of genius has to do with how I coach, how I show up to a coaching session, and how I hold space. So I think that I want to articulate this, and I'm hearing my mentor and my coach saying it's not bragging if you've done it, because I feel very humble about this. But I think 23 years of being a private practice therapist allows me to hold really sacred space differently. Darcy, there's not anything anyone could say that would shock me or that I would judge them for.
Right.
And so I think I show up with a different level of empathy and compassion. And also because of my own life story. I had, here's an example. I have people tell me things they never tell anyone. They've never told anyone.
Yeah.
I had a second call with a client who now I've been working with for quite a while, who's one of my favorite clients. We're in our second year. But we'd had a connect call. You know how this works when you're seeing, is this a client that I click with? On our first coaching call, in the first hour, this incredibly brilliant, powerful, incredibly wealthy, he's a multimillionaire, almost a billionaire man, turned off his Zoom camera and wept and said to me, "Oh my God, Sarah, I have never felt so seen." So there's something in my zone of genius. What I love to do is bring out the best in my clients. And there's a true gift in most of my clients, and probably how I function in my default pattern is really to force. Most of my clients have that masculine force things, get things done energy. It's not fun. It's get it done, alpha male, check off the box, whether they're men or women, to be honest.
Yeah.
Women show up with that energy as well. And what I love is helping them find their zone of genius, getting the right team, the right people in place, delegating to elevate them, and helping them see how they can have effortless joy. How when they're in their zone of genius, work becomes effortless. That goes into my Fibonacci project and the research I'm doing. Would you like to hear about it?
Yeah. What is that?
Well, so the Fibonacci, do you know the Fibonacci mathematical sequence? Some people, okay. So the Fibonacci sequence is a mathematical sequence. It was discovered, I think, in 1100 by a mathematician in Italy. And the sequence looks like a spiral. And honestly, to be transparent, I'm slightly obsessed with maximizing things and being efficient because I'm truly a maximizer. It's in my top 5 Clifton strengths. The Fibonacci sequence is nature's way of maximizing growth. So the sequence looks like this. It's 1 + 1 = 2. So it's the sum of the two numbers previously come up with a third number. So 1 + 1 = 2. Then we take 1 + 2 = 3. 3 + 2 = 5. And when you draw it out, when you map it out, it's a spiral. And it's everywhere. It's in our thumbprints. It's in a pine cone. It's in the way seeds in the center of a sunflower unfold. It's in a snail shell. It's in the Milky Way galaxy. Our galaxy is a spiral galaxy. So the way our galaxy is expanding is according to the Fibonacci sequence. So I named my research project this because nature doesn't work hard. A sunflower doesn't work hard at making those sunflowers come out. An orange tree doesn't go, "Oh, I have to work at creating oranges." It's just growth. And so what lights me up is working with these brilliant clients who are already successful, actually embrace their zone of genius and allow it to become effortless. So that's the project. I'm doing this by interviews. I'm having a blast. So the interviews are qualitative. And then, I've got people coding the interviews so that we'll have some quantitative data as well. But it's kind of a side project right now. It's a passion project for me.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating, and it sparks a question for me to see if you can share either in your own life as a successful businesswoman or working with executives and high performing people, what the balance is between being an authentic leader and being vulnerable, and how to show strength, and sort of this sense like I have to work hard to be able to be a leader and to be strong, and how do you navigate for yourself or with your clients the the tension between those two?
Yeah, I have a strong belief that strength actually comes from vulnerability.
Mm.
And so leaning into, and I believe this in my own business, my own team, but I believe this to be true for all teams, that as a leader, if you can lead by being vulnerable, watching for those moments where you can lean in, get to understand someone better, understand a dynamic, share vulnerably how you are doing or what your struggles are. That's where relationships, that's where people truly connect. And so there's, I don't know that there's, I want to say I'm checking myself. You can see my wheels going. I don't know if there's balance. I think authenticity requires vulnerability. In vulnerability, you are showing strength. I think it takes much more strength to be a leader who comes in and says, I'm not exactly sure how to do this. I need help. Somebody who hires people better than them to fill in the gaps that might need filled. I actually think that's incredibly important. It's hard, and you know this as well, because when you are at the top, and most of my clients are founders, I have a team that I put together to serve those my clients' teams to handle all different kinds of issues with C-suites, mid-level managers, or even just people, employees who are going through a divorce and need a life coach, or
Mm.
having fertility issues and want to start a family. So we've got all those things happening. But the truth is, for the founders, it's lonely.
Yeah.
It's lonely. It's challenging, especially that gap. The more successful you become, the harder I think it is to be vulnerable. And the more, and your clients would know this too, Darcy, the more they crave having a confidential sounding board, a safe place
Yeah.
to really talk about the full spectrum. If you think about the best of life at 100% to the challenging worst part of life at 0%, most owners, most leaders, C-suite leaders, they're going to talk about from 40% maybe to 80. They don't want to say the worst, for sure, not the bottom 10 or 20%. Sometimes they don't even want to say the best,
Mm.
because then there's this fear of, people are going to want more from me.
Mm.
And so there's never an opportunity to let your guard down. So it's very easy to buy into that. What is it, an American philosophy? Work hard. The harder you work, the more successful you become. And instead, it just puts people into misery.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, Sarah, it sounds like you are a very safe, confidential place for your clients to bring anything and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
And if you'll let me add
yeah.
in, a differentiator is, because of my background, where I've worked with all kinds of not only mental health issues, life issues, but also mental health illness. What people don't realize is that when you're incredibly successful, a business owner, you also have all those things happening in your life as well. So having someone with expertise who can come in, not with a therapist perspective, but all the knowledge and leverage all that along with my obsession with I'm a brain nerd, so I'm interested in neuro-linguistic programming, leveraging how our brain works already, positive psychology, strength-based learning. Bring all of that, and the coaching perspective really catapults people forward in a very safe, confidential, kind of sacred space. Does that make sense?
It totally does, and I'm curious if you're willing to go there. Like, where do you find that space for yourself? You're clearly out front leading a successful business. Where do you go to get that coaching or that confidential space?
Yeah. So I have my own private coach who I've invested lots of money. Last year, I probably spent $150,000 investing in coaching for myself. So I have a private one-on-one coach. I have a group, mastermind group that I'm part of. I actually have a spiritual coach. I have a physical coach, which I'm sure doesn't surprise you. I have a husband who I adore and love. We've been together 28 years, so we've kind of grown up together.
Oh my God.
And I have my team. So we practice EOS. I used to be an EOS implementer. I use EOS in my own business, although I've delegated to elevate myself. So I'm not doing strategic planning with companies anymore. But IDS and we actually have a learning mentoring time where we collaborate on challenging clients. So I find inspiration in a whole lot of ways. I think, continuous growth and learning is my playground. I would just hop from mountaintop to mountaintop if I could.
Wow. So you walk the talk. You invest deeply in your own personal development and professional growth.
Absolutely. And there's something to be said for that because I suppose you know this too. Nobody has a coaching budget. People have budgets for all kinds of things. Even my multimillionaires, they've got budgets for vacations, for sometimes they don't think about budgets, but most of the time, thinking about what do I want to invest in myself isn't something people often A are thinking about or B are setting money aside for. So um, for me, going through that experience the first time, my hand was literally shaking the first time. Probably I wasn't writing a hand check. I think I was doing a money transfer of a large figure of money to someone for coaching. I remember feeling slightly sick, like, oh gosh. And every time it pays off exponentially.
I mean, the ROI right there is it's clear. You're in your zone of genius, have a team, and have you're realizing the results of investing in yourself, physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's true. And I'm sure that you see this as well. I find that often there's a turning point when someone invests in a program or in individual coaching. There's a shift that's happened where they have made this conscious decision. I am creating my own life. So they move out of the drama triangle, victim, persecutor, rescuer into the empowerment dynamic. It's David Emerald's work of I'm taking responsibility. There's a call to action when someone invests in themselves that there's a real distinction. There's something significant that happens in that. And it calls people I think the more time, the more energy, the more financially they invest, the more they get out of it. So I'm playing with that in my own life for sure, because I want exponential growth.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you just said something, so I'm playing with that more. And I want to take a left turn for just a moment, because last year was my year of playfulness. I am a business leader, and I
What? to
focused
play.
and disciplined and right. And so I was like, where's the joy and fun? So I actually made that my intention. And I also find that in many cases with the clients that I work with and top leaders, they feel like they have to project this image of being in control and on time. And I'm curious if you would be willing to share anything about the value for you of playing more, and or if that comes in any way with the clients that you work with.
Oh, all the time. And there's tremendous value. And I loved watching you. You know, we're on four wheelers. I mean, it was fun. You've been doing fun things. So what I think, and it comes back to this Fibonacci project, we know that our most brilliant ideas, I mean, even Einstein talked about this, that the most brilliant ideas happen in a state of relaxation and play. That, yeah, I mean, he's written prolifically on this, that great ideas happened in the bathroom or in the bath, because when we allow our brains to relax, that's when all of that complex, high level, um, neural synapsing, all those things are happening in our brains where we put things together differently. So I think it's a huge challenge for most of my clients. I think that's partly why they find me, why I'm a great match for them, is I will say to my clients all the time, slow down to speed up. You are your number one best asset. And they forget to take care of themselves. And part of that is creating space for creativity, for relaxation, for play. Oh my gosh, in my own life, Darcy, you're going to get this, especially in my first career. My mantra was get all the work done, then you can play. So guess what
Yes,
happened?
and the work is never done.
Right, you never have time to play. So what I'm learning is my zone of genius, when I create that space for my mind to play, to be creative, it's so much better. That's true for my clients as well. That then
Wow.
what's happening, like an orange tree, the fruit of that just happens and it's effortless. You're still working, but it's like you're in flow, you're in peak performance. So it's so much more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you have so much wisdom and insights. I'm intrigued, and I'm wondering if the thoughtfully fit fans and friends who are watching and listening want more, because it feels like we're just touching on. I have so many follow up questions. If they want more, where can they get more of you, Sarah?
Yeah, Darcy, first of all, I agree. I think we could spend a whole day together and not run out of things to talk about. So what a
A
delight
day? Are you
to have you.
kidding? We need to go on vacation for like a month.
Wouldn't that be fun? They can find me at our website, which is fruehlingcoaching.com. I host workshops. I don't know when this will run, but I'm hosting a workshop on June 16th. When will this episode come
It'll be
out?
in July. So do you have things after that?
I do. So the next one will be in September.
Okay.
And anyone who would like to attend who mentions Thoughtfully Fit, I will give them a complimentary seat to that workshop.
Thank you.
The September workshop will be on the 6 leadership styles. We're playing with Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence and the different ways of showing up as a leader. And they can email me at info@fruehlingcoaching.com.
Wow. Thank you for sharing your brilliance, your time, your wisdom with us. As we end every Thoughtfully Fit Thursday, we will end with the core and engaging your core. So if anybody's watching right now and you feel like you need time to be able to have the strength to project an image of being in control, and you're worried about, that, and how can you just be more authentic? How can you be in the flow? How can you be in the zone of genius? Hit the pause button and think and give your chance a moment to reflect on what would it look like to really lead authentically. to be in the zone of genius, to give yourself permission to enjoy your work, to play more, and then act and move forward with that intention. And maybe the action might be going to FruehlingCoaching.com and checking out or attending your event in September. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being with us today.
It's been a joy. I want to tell you, as you ran that, I think that has worked so brilliantly for me because I'm very mindful. So every time that I have launched a new product, even when I made the decision to move from therapist to coach, I followed your model. Pause, think strategically about it, and then mindfully make a choice and act with courage. Not always confidence, I find. Lead with courage, confidence is the outcome. So, leading with the courage and saying, okay, I'm going to do the best I can has really been a successful formula. And so, thank you for that.
Wow, that's like the best testimonial ever. I mean, for you to use that and then to be in this place of success is just it's a tremendous success story. So thank you for sharing that.
You bet. It's an honor. Thanks, Darcy.
Yeah, wonderful. We look forward to connecting more and learning more. And everybody, thank you for joining us for Thoughtfully Fit Thursday. Have a great day.